There's a terrible cliche and stereotype which we're about to debunk. You may have heard that you could have reached your use-by date, your useful date, by the time you hit 60. Insulting, isn't it? Not according to Dr. Leon Geffen from the Samson Institute for Aging Research. He says they hold economic and social power. They cannot be ignored. And Dr. Geffen joining us this morning. Good to have you with us, Dr. Geffen. I'm sure many people would agree with you. So when we say it's time to rethink about how we think about older people, are we getting it wrong? Good morning, and why do you think that is?
Good morning, Gareth. Thank you very much for having me on, and good morning to your listeners, your viewers. I think we are. We very much getting it wrong. The world is getting older. We are facing we're at currently where we're seeing almost in the next 20 to 30 years, we're going to see a tripling of people age 60 plus in the world. And by 2050, we're going to see almost 2 billion people age 60 plus in the world. The vast majority of them are going to be living in low and middle income countries. So probably by 2050, 1.6 billion people will be living in low and middle income countries. So we certainly need to start planning, and we should have started planning a long time ago to deal with an aging world. And it's a testimony to the fact that, people are surviving the first 5 years of their life, that women are not dying in childbirth. And we are, as such, the total number of people who are going to grow older will be very much part of our economy, very much part of our society. And we need to overcome, as you mentioned, stereotypes that are negative towards aging, older persons. We need to make an environment that's friendly towards older persons. And we need to realize that when we make environments that are friendly towards older persons, we're making them friendly for children, we're making them friendly for people with disabilities, we're making them friendly for women. We need to make a society that recognizes the value that older persons have provided to make this society that it is.
Why do you think we're not getting that right as a society, Doctor, especially from a South African perspective? Could it be a case of skipped generations, for example? Why do we seem to have fallen into this notion where we have to now have this discussion because we don't give our elders the respect they deserve? Where did that start happening? How did we get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very interesting question because we pay a lot of lip service to the value that older persons play in society. We talk about the elders, and the wisdom of the elders, but then it doesn't translate into action that supports older persons. Yes, in South Africa, we do have an older person grant or an old age pension, one of the few countries in Africa that does have an old age pension. Which is very, very important and goes to support not only the older person, but the family that they are caring for. It provides an enormous amount of economic growth necessary for the country because older persons are getting the money and they're immediately recycling it into the economy. They're buying their goods with it. And I think we don't recognize that. We think that, well, older people are just a drain on society. Why should we pay 2,000 Rand a month or 1,900 Rand to an older person? But what we don't realize is that 1,900 for people under the age of 70, between 60 and 75, and for 2,000 Rand for people who are 75 and older, is immediately recycled into the economy. It pays for the food that they require. It pays often for the grandchildren's school clothes or whatever clothes is needed in the family.
Because often you see grandparents as well having to take up the role of parents who sadly may have passed or have left to go and work elsewhere. Doctor, I've got just a very short moment left with you. I see you've been named among the healthy aging 50. You don't look the age at all, by the way, if I may say. Where do we now escalate this conversation to? Perhaps there's a minister, someone in government, because it needs to come from a policy framework from the top. Just in a few seconds, if you can, where do we take this conversation next? Who needs to change this?
We need to translate what we have in legislation and translate it into action on the ground. So it's pointless just paying lip service and saying we've got policies that are there without translating it into action, and we need to put the resources and into making sure that we can implement the policies that we've got in the country.
It's all about the implementation and respecting our elders as well. Just because you're over 60 doesn't mean you're not living anymore. Some will say you only start living at 60. Doctor, I appreciate your time this morning. Dr. Leon Geffen, the Research Director for the Samson Institute for Aging.